Welcome to the Data Vault Friday. My name is Michael Olschimke. I'm the CEO of Scalefree. We're having this session here every day, every Friday at 11 o'clock in the morning, Central European Standard Time, to allow you, the audience, to ask questions about Data Vault, data mining, data-driven applications, cloud computing, MVP stuff, and so on. Today from my office, because the video equipment is in the Scalefree office, so it's not here, and so I'm using the webcam today. Yeah. You can submit questions. I'll show you today after the session where you can upload your questions. Essentially, you can raise your hand if you want. Asking a live question, you can also use the chat here in the client or the Q&A functionality. Yeah, and if there would be no question at all, we will talk about cluster. But yeah, as I said last time, we were quite busy. All right, so let's show you today's question that we received from one of the customers. This one is about essentially soft deleting data records in a data vault model in an enterprise address, and it's all about effectivity satellites. Because there's no update in the data vault, fine. This user here doesn't understand how could you close an end date, like a valid to date, for example, in the effectivity satellite without updating it. And you're right. So updates sounds a bit fishy in data vault, right? Because we claim it's insert only, but we have to somehow end date the record. I'm struggling here a bit because we don't use the load end date for that, right? So we use a valid to date, or what we typically use is a deleted date essentially. But we don't do an update. I mean, we do an insert only, that's a claim, no update, and a delete we only do when there's a lawyer in my back and essentially tells me we have to delete something. Then I'm not arguing with lawyers. But other than what, I wouldn't do an update with them, right? So we only delete data if required by somebody, law typically, or legal requirements, GDPR, for example. But other than that, we do only inserts. That's what we do. Now, so let's say we have employees reporting to managers. There's a good example. So we have a link involved here where we store the relationship. So there's, and I create some shortcuts here, I simplified it a bit. We have an employee number and a manager number, which is also an employee number, but that's not the focus of this concern here. So that's the link structure. And on day one, so we need also a load date and a business. I use the business key here for identifying the relationship. Okay, so and I'm omitting the record source. So on day one, we get a record from the system that says that employee A reports to manager X, and the business key for that would be AX. Let's say that. Now that's a relationship, and what we do is we use an effectivity satellite, just what what's written here in this question. We use an effectivity satellite to keep track of which relationships still exist and which are deleted, essentially, but we don't want to do an update. So we have an effectivity satellite where we have the business key as a primary key, the load date timestamp, and I'm using a deleted date. That's essentially indicating when did we recognize the relationship as being deleted in the source system, essentially. All right. You could also have in the effectivity satellite valid from day to dates, business timelines. I'm ignoring this because this is really about soft deletes, and soft deletes is really captured by a deleted date, no matter how you call it, but it's a timestamp essentially, typically. All right. So on day one, we receive this relationship, so we know it's active in the source. It has been delivered, right? So we can activate this with the hash key AX, or business key, sorry, on day one. And then the deleted date is when we recognize the record. Oh, sorry, it's not the no, I'm sorry, no, it's not deleted. It's all active. So we mark this as active by using the end of all times stamp. Yeah. All right. On day two, employee A realizes that manager X is really not a good person, and this employee wants to report to somebody else. So they go to HR and say, you know what, we need to I need to work for somebody else. And yeah, it works. Okay. And I want to work for so and HR essentially assigns this employee to manager Y. Okay, so A is going to report to Y. And this relationship comes in, let's say on day two, AY. Okay, it's an AY. Sorry, I have the Zoom stuff here. It's AY, and that's a new relationship. So this comes in on day 2. So on day 2, we have some new knowledge, new information essentially. What they're doing is they're updating the old relationship, like a foreign key from the employee record to the manager record. They're updating this foreign key from X to Y, right? So the old relationship on day 2 is gone. That relationship doesn't exist anymore in the source data set. But the new relationship between A and Y exists. And that's what we keep track of now. AX on day 2 is gone. So we set this to day 1. Day 2, sorry. We recognize this deletion on day 2. And then we insert a new effectivity satellite for the new relationship, the entry, day 2. And that's the active row now. On day 3, when employee A realizes that Y is even worse than X, and this employee wants to essentially go back to X, then HR says, okay, it works or not, because you can't go back. Our database doesn't support this, right? Because no updates now. So it works actually, and but we don't need a new link because we have the old link already between A and X. So there's no new link entry. But on day 3, the foreign key in the source system gets updated again. So instead of Y, they put X back in essentially, right? So the AY relationship is gone on day 3, and the AX relationship comes in again. The AX comes in again, so it's open again. It's the active record again. And AY on day 3 is end dated. That's the basic idea. So it can go back and forth now. This employee can report to Z now. We can deactivate the current relationship, activate the next relationship, and so on. It's all insert only. We don't update the record. The thing is this: an effectivity satellite is just a standard satellite. So when a deleted date or a valid from a to date changes, we just capture this change as an insert of a new delta. That's it. And don't get confused. There's a lot of articles out there where people claim that you could, or somehow the driving key is related to the effectivity satellite. No, it's not. There might be a driving key involved, but by default, no. The driving key has nothing to do from the onset with the effectivity satellite. You just capture all the changes to the data, just like in an ordinary satellite. The challenge is something else here. The challenge is how to recognize the deletion. That's the only challenge. How do you calculate the deleted date, essentially? And that depends now on the delivery mechanism. If you get full loads or delta loads, do you have complete deltas, right, where you get informed about the deleted records, which is a bummer often? Do you have CDC data, real-time data, and so on? So depending on how you get the data delivered, the way how we calculate or which tricks we use for calculating a deleted date, the recognition of the deleted records, that might be different. That might be complicated sometimes, or not fully reliable, and so on. Or might even involve business logic, but it's essentially a good question for next session. I hope this answers your question here. Not sure if the person is in here, but that's the way it works. So we always insert records into the database satellite, even if it's an effectivity satellite. It has no different. There's no update required. Period. All right, and it's true for the whole raw database, or for the whole design, for all the layers. Insert only. That's what you want to achieve, and only delete data when somebody forces you. And typically a lawyer, some higher ups. Yeah, that's why it is. I don't like it, but it's what it is. All right. Good question. And there's one question here. Yeah, so there's one question in the chat. So these delivery mechanisms, CDC, delta load, including deletions or full load, are complicated. Yes and no. So we love CDC because in CDC, so if I have the choice between using let me give you my preference. Let's say that. So my preference is, even if it's unrealistic, to get a full load of master data all day. So every day I get a full load of all the customers, all the products, and so on. And then for invoices and transactional data, I get in a true increment. A true increment means all the new records, all the updated records, and the deleted records. That's the increment on the transaction level. That would be my paradise to some extent. Problem is I don't get that, because a full load of customer records you won't get. So the next option would be actually what we prefer is to get CDC data. So if you have a chance to absorb the data by CDC mechanisms, change data capture, go for it. Because in CDC trails, you get the CDC trail in near real time, and all the intraday changes, you get everything. Plus, it's a full audit trail in near real time. So you get all the inserted records, the updated records, and the deleted records. So based on the CDC records, I can quickly load this effectivity satellite very efficiently, essentially. That's why there's many reasons why we prefer CDC data, essentially. The problem is, well, if you have full loads, it's also relatively easy if you get a full load. In a full load, you can quickly identify the new records by looking at the business keys. Are the business keys that you have in a hub, which are not marked as deleted yet, still in a staging area, right? If so, they haven't been deleted. If they are not there anymore, and you look at a reliable source system, which doesn't forget some business keys or records sometimes, if the record is gone from staging, you can assume it has been deleted. That would be easy, but you don't get a full load. What you get is, in many cases, and we as well, is these incomplete deltas, where you have only the inserted and updated records, but no deleted records. Well, because they don't have them anymore, because they got deleted in the source. So that's it. Well, in this case, you're no wizards. I mean, I don't see you on a webcam here, but I have no wizard hat here. My kid has one, but yeah, they wouldn't give it to me. So there's no wizards here. So there's two choices now. Either they give you a trail, an audit trail, where they mark those deleted records essentially, but you wouldn't get that either because they don't have it. So be polite, go to the source system owners and ask them again for a full load. Well, I get that. The full load of all the customer records is way too large, so they would say no. But what we need is actually only a full load of the business keys that you selected for the hub. That's sufficient because I said we're looking for all the business keys which are in a hub at the moment. We're checking them against the staging area again. If they are gone, the record has been deleted. I don't need anything else in the business key in the staging area. So ask for the full load of the business key. And yes, they might say still no, because it's too large, but it's nonsense. Because even 100 million rows of a business key column or 2 columns is not a large data set. Sorry. So all the reasons they give you why they can't produce it are typically political reasons. They don't have the consultants, no budget, no whatever. That's why they don't want to give it to you. But they're all technical reasons. Sorry, they all need political reasons. So have fun fighting those arguments, essentially. That's what it is. And then, in addition to that, full load of the business key, you need the incomplete deltas, the inserted and updated records. That's sufficient, actually, for loading a data vault. If you don't get that one, well, then you can only guess. Well, we can do guessing, but not in a raw data vault. So you can't load this flag, essentially, or this date timeline here. What you do is you would essentially load the data as it is. You wouldn't get the data, so be it. And then in the business vault, you ask them for an assumption. When can we, given the data we receive, when can we assume a customer being inactive? I wouldn't call this deleted because I don't know, right? I might call this inactive or active, whatever. So for example, based on data, you could say, well, if a customer is not ordering products anymore for at least 3 months, we consider the customer as being inactive. I can live with that. I can produce that. But I just don't know if the customer has been deleted from the source system because the source system doesn't deliver enough and sufficient data. So I can't make the statement, right? That would be at least what I would do. I get that sometimes it's a bit more complicated and a bit more challenging, but that's the truth, right? So give the recording to anybody, to your managers. That's what it is. So you can't guess, make a bad guess actually if the record is being deleted or not if the source doesn't tell you, essentially, right? So those are the options, and that's essentially those options now define how you load the effectivity satellite with the deleted data, essentially. That's the basic idea. But always insert only, never do an update, and we only delete data here when we get forced by law, by some legal organizational requirement, essentially. GDPR, for example, HIPAA, and so on. Okay, so if you have a question like this, use this form here, sfr.ee/dbfriday. That's where you can upload the questions, upload some pictures of your whiteboard, teams, and whatever, or diagrams and so on. We take what we get, right? So it might show on the slides if it meets the quality requirements. And then, I mean, I'm drawing here on the whiteboard, so the quality requirements are not that big, essentially. So that's where you can submit your questions, essentially. And at https://scalefree.to/webinars, you can sign up for more webinars. One is on DBT, the other one on WhereScape. Yeah, also good recordings, good stuff. And we have we teamed up with Ignition Data in Australia, and yeah, came up with the Data Vault Innovators community, where you can also ask questions if you can't wait until next Friday. use this form essentially to ask questions, where you also get answers from both Scalefree teams and Ignition Data teams, essentially answering your questions as soon as we can, essentially. And we will also publish more additional webinars, essentially, on given topics. Cool. So yeah, thanks for joining. Good group, good question, and hope to see you again next Friday. Enjoy your weekends, guys. See you guys.